Hello there. As I did in Indiana Jones films, got my phone, as I did in Indiana Jones films like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, why not this one? Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I did a few of Sean Connery's in the golden days of Bond. Why not have Sean Connery, as I was meant to say, as Indy's dad? That's right, Indy's dad. Now, as you know, Raiders was more of the adventure with a dark side of it. Temple of Doom had a bit more of horror elements to it. This one, they wanted to make it a bit more lighter and a bit more of the adventure tone of Indy. That being Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now, it starts off, as you see, in Indy as a kid running about, and there's a lot of cock-ups in the scene where he's on the train. Have you ever seen the train scene? Out of all the Indy films, I think this was one that had a lot of cock-ups. With a Phoenix, who is sadly no longer with us, passed away. And I always wondered whether this was what inspired, if you remember the TV series, Young Indiana Jones Adventures. Remember? Young Indiana Jones? Because it does have that Young Indiana Jones feel, and I always wondered. I do love the actor in it who, if I remember rightly, Indiana Jones got inspired to become Indy, like a better version. And same way, never had him in anything else. I'd love to see maybe a version like Indy, but with him as that character. You know what I mean? You did well. You did bad, kid, but it doesn't mean you got to love yourself. And he just in that fucking hat, and then it's also Indy as we see as Harrison Ford. I do remember him being in the 5th Friday the 13th, and he also played a bad guy the same day as when he did this. Gold, An Innocent Man. Good film. Very underestimated film. But yeah, I like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade as an adventure to it, and it's a lot lighter. You could say the only horror in it is to see where the bad guy and he gets the cup, you know, the cup from the Last Crusade, and he chinks it, and that guy, the knight, says he chose one because, you know, he's going for all these cups, and the woman thinks, oh, if I go for the pretty one, that'll be the one that keeps your life. It was the one it looks common, tatty and ugly, and you're thinking, did you not figure that one out? There was just a throw off. To go for the pretty one, you're going to get it. But he thinks it, and he ages and ages. What's happening to me? And he blows up. I love that. It's the only bit I would say has horror. A bit within the tomb and heads are getting cut off. Bit of horror there. But unlike Raiders, where you see fucking Troll's face flying, guy's head blowing up, Temple of Doom, especially the uncut one, what is more graphic. You see hearts getting ripped out and kids getting ripped. This didn't have that much of an order to it. I think at the time Steven Spielberg was trying to make it more lighter, same as George Lucas were, trying to make it more of a lighter hearted adventure. It's funny really, because when you think about it, you do have two Bond guys in it. You've got Sean Connery, and you've got the one that plays the villain, the one that says, what's happening to me? You've played the bad guy in For Your Eyes Only. And the dirt who Indy has it away with, at first is good, and you find he's bad, you don't know whether she's good or bad. She also played in The Future with Kill. So, very ironic really, isn't it? But I like Sean Connery in this. He's quite funny. I love the bit where he hits Indy on the head and he says that line, Junior, and he says it all the way through the film, Junior, and he whacks him on the head and he says, oh, it broke me heart, and then he says, it's alright, it didn't hurt me. No, the cut, that's good news. It's a fake, and I just love it. Again, there's a fuck up there because he's got a beard, and you can see it's a fake beard halfway through the film, and then he goes back to having a light beard. The funny thing was, Sean Connery wasn't that old when he did this. Wasn't that old, believe it or not. He was like, I'd say probably in his late 50s. So yeah, he was sort of like in the middle, but he wasn't that old in what he is now. Which is ironic, because even Harrison Ford said he's only like a couple of years older than me. I thought that was like funny at the time. There was a funny bit in it, and you may see it in the trailer, where they're trying to put the hat on, and he gets staples, and he tries to staple the hat. Whether it did or not is a different story. But you could only have fun when they did Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It has that, you know, it has that adventure feel to it, and it sort of feels a bit like the sequel to the original, being Raiders. There's even a love letter in it where they're in a tomb, it's got rats everywhere, you may have seen it, very popular scene, and they've got rats, and there's a scene where they find the thing, and it shows the art of the cover and it plays a bit of that music. I always thought this was on a little bit of Temple of Doom and all, where he sees that Indian thing die, and he was holding that stone. I thought someone done a bit there, so a bit of other adventures. See if that Indy is an adventure or kill a fly. But yeah, I kind of like that. I love the scene with the rats and they're attacking everybody. Now the dirt in this is the only time I would say Indy doesn't get the dirt. Did he really get married, even though it down followed on in the Tisto still? They just walk off and assume he got a beer. In India and the Temple of Doom, you got to see him, he snogs the dirt at the end and you get the elephant splashing up and then he snogs it again. But in this he never got the dirt. The dirt got it herself out of deed. Because the cup is like the cup of choice, you know, the cup what took his blood when Jesus was being sacrificed. And that's what it was, it was like the cup. Like the cup, I think it was called, and she's trying to get it out of deed, and by accident she falls to a doom. Indy does it, but in looking at Sean Connery says some beautiful lines. Indy, let it go, let it go. And you got it there then. Is it really worth your fucking life? No matter how pretty it is, I mean, it's going to be worth something. With date, you're going to put it in the fucking, you know, a museum. Is it really worth your fucking life? Because this old knight said to him, right, when they went into the tomb, don't touch the cup, don't take it out of the leaving area. You do. Bye bye tomb. The deed draws their deaths. You know what I mean? But with me, I never thought India was realistic. It was taken off the serial comic books from, you know, the 30s and 40s, and it was never taken serious. Would you believe that an old knight, hundreds and hundreds of years old, would be in a fucking tassel, far away in some hidden tomb, in a cave, hidden in a tomb where he couldn't move, probably stinking of piss and shit, 100 and odd years old, waiting for some fucking knights? Would you believe a box, if you open it, evil spirits will come out and blow your head up and your fucking face would melt? Would you believe that a die would rip your fucking heart out and you'd still be alive and he'd put you on fucking fire? Or an alien in Tistel Stew would make your eyeballs explode? No. And that's what made Indy. It wasn't believable. It wasn't supposed to be realistic. The scene where he's on the rip and he's pulling his way up in Raiders and the fucking thing's going down, so he's going up again and he's going down again. A bowler chasing him, which I forgot to say in Raiders, and he manages to get out just out of dots in the nick of fucking time. And the scene where he's under a fucking truck and he's got that rip. Them trucks in the 30s, by the way, were that narrow, he wouldn't have got out in the nick of time. He would have been fucking mush. Have you ever seen a 1930s truck? Very small. And even the stuntman that did that injured his fucking legs. Ended up becoming a director after that. I think he did some of the directing stunt scenes in Die Hard with a Vengeance. The same stuntman. He did Harrison Ford stunting Raiders. But, you know, I like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. At first, I was never really that keen on it. You know, I was more into Raiders. Or I was more into the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But over the years, I would say it's towing on me. I like Sean Connery. I think that's a brilliant fucking role. And to be honest, without sounding weird, there's a little tear comes on my face when I watch Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Yes, I'm not making this shit up. I cry a little bit. Not because it's sad. I cry because they don't make fucking movies like that anymore. Yep, I'm being fucking honest. They do not make fucking movies like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. They don't make them anymore. And it's a fucking shame. Because I think they should make more movies like that than some of the fucking shit Hollywood races on these days. Other than that though, I thought I'd compete them. Maybe one day around the road I'll talk about the Tistel Stew. I'm a bit thingy on that. I used to like it and I remember seeing it when it first came out on theatre. But in my fairness, Indy sort of just been played by a younger guy, just like Bond. It couldn't be doing with the old man fucking jokes. I get it. We're not all going to be along forever, but you know, the old man jokes got a bit fucking as old as the old man's fucking jokes. To me, think this would have been a longer day. I think Harrison Ford nailed it. I do not want to see another indie film, but I would love to see a film similar. That's what I'm getting at. I want to see a film similar to Indie. I'd love to see that one day. Whether it'll happen is a different story. Into then, see you later.